Business coach and SEO expert Luke Vanderveer is the founder of Website Rental Coaching, WRC, a digital agency that trains people to earn through the rank and rent website business model and find a better work life balance. WRC financially empowers clients by teaching them skills in SEO, lead generation, and client sourcing to build high ranking websites that can be rented to businesses. With WRC's program, clients have earned passive income to match or even replace their 9 to 5 salaries. Luke's journey as a digital landlord started with his own search for financial independence as an unfulfilled corporate 9 to 5er. In 10 years, he has built over 100 rank and rent websites that generate thousands of high quality organic business leads each month across 73 niches. Besides his 7-figure website rental portfolio, Luke has also acquired local businesses and scaled them for a big exit later. In 2023, he notably purchased Mr. Dingaling for $1.7 million, raising the ice cream company's valuation to $2.2 million in just a few months. So welcome, Luke Vanderveer. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good. Are you excited about pouring into our listeners?
I am. And I have to say, I've been waiting for this nice weather. So I'm just enjoying this, soaking it in here.
All right, so we have good surprises. Here we go. So, Luke, tell us a bit about your path to leadership and what you're doing now.
Yes. So I did the normal kind of 9 to 5 path that we're taught about, from our parents and going to school. Got out, started working as an employee. Very quickly realized that's not for me. So I had to do something else, try to make some money online and just escape that whole thing.
Right.
And what I ended up doing now is coaching people on how to make money online. So basically, build lead generation websites, rent them out to business owners to make money. So my leadership role here is really just teaching people who are in the same spot as me how to get to where I am.
But when did that shift for you happen? When you're like no 9 to 5, like what was it that happened?
Almost immediately, 2013, I got out of the MBA program at SUNY Albany and I got a job at General Electric, sixth largest company in the world at the time, right out of school. And everyone was congratulating me. They're like, this is an awesome job, super prestigious, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, cool. And I was excited to come in and see how it was. And don't get me wrong, the people around me were all very smart people that are great at what they do. But that culture with a lot of red tape and 75 leaders between you and the top, and just that 9 to 5 and sitting in traffic for hours every day, morning and night. And well, I'm saying 9 to 5, it's more like an 8 to 7. But
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
that type of structure and having to think about doing that till 65 or whenever you can potentially retire was just keeping me up at night. I couldn't get past that. And I was talking to some of the employees. Most of the people were way older than me. I mean, I was coming in at 20s and they're all 60s, 70s, and they're still working. And the common theme talking to all of them was we don't have enough to retire. We didn't do enough of what we wanted to do when we were younger, and we're kind of annoyed now or wish we could do something different. And I'm sitting there talking to all of them, and I'm like, oh God, I set myself up for this. I was like, I got to get out of this now.
Right, right. So not only did you look to get out of it, but you also looked for solutions to their issues. Is that right?
Yeah, some way to basically get out of that, but also give myself the time because those were the things that was like money and time. And just talking to different people, I haven't met a lot of people that have both. It's always one or the other,
Mhm.
right? So I was trying to find something that can give you both.
Right. And so one of the things that I love about this is that you did just that. You were looking and you were like, oh, I don't want this. But you also look to solve a problem. And so tell me about your organization and what you do.
Yeah, so my company is called Website Rental Coaching. And I basically teach people how to generate leads for business owners and use that to create a passive income for themselves so that it's a win-win for everybody. Customer gets a great business, the business makes a ton, and myself and coaching clients get paid passively so that they don't have to work a job or continue to do some kind of active business to make money. It's more upfront work and then passive later.
So if I'm in an organization where I don't want to be in, this is a great opportunity to tap into some of these resources that you have. Now, I'm assuming you have a website. Tell us about that.
Yeah, website rental coaching is what talks about what I do now. Some people will be familiar with this. SEO, search engine optimization, is basically taking websites from invisible, where everybody starts, to the top of the search engine, like
Right,
Google, someone everybody uses, so that people see it.
right,
And as you know, people are on Google for everything they want. The roof is falling apart, you hire the roofer off Google. The toilet breaks, you call the plumber off Google. The tree falls down, you call the tree guy. Everything's always some kind of search that pulls up local businesses. So if you know how to take advantage of that, you can make a lot of money. And most people will do that on the side. They'll learn how to do it on the side, match their income, or build it up to a high enough point that they can leave their job. I wouldn't really suggest like leaving and then diving in. It's like you want to learn that, build it up, and then when it matches, walk away. That's what
right.
I do.
So, okay, so I have a website, right? So
Yeah.
what do I do? Like I'm renting space on my website. This is a new concept for me. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So there are different things. I will do my best to explain this as clearly as possible. Anytime there is something that somebody searches for on Google, there's always search volume. Other people are looking for it. So let me just use a tree service as an example.
Mhm.
If you're in Albany area and you search for, you have a tree that needs to be cut down or something, you might do like tree removal Albany. And then you'll see who the local businesses are in that area. And guaranteed there's going to be 20, 30 companies that can all do exactly what you want.
Right,
But if you're looking at those search results, you're probably only going to one of the first few people you see.
right.
I don't think you're going 7, 8 pages back in Google, because what's the point? They all do the same thing. And that's what most people do. There's been studies on this. So the idea is to build a website, get it into that top spot where everybody sees it, and then rent it to a business that actually does that work.
Right.
So if you're the business owner yourself, you can generate leads for yourself, right? Like if I'm the tree guy, I can generate leads for myself and just make all the money. But if I'm not, I can do the same thing, build a website about trees, rank it for trees, and then find the tree guy and just say, hey, I have all these people that want tree work done. Pay me, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, and I'll give you all of these customers. So it's essentially like renting digital space on Google is what we're doing.
Okay, so that is very interesting. So let's say I'm starting off, I have a brand new website. What are some key things that I should be doing to get myself in that position?
First thing is figuring out what people are typing in to find you, right? There's always certain terms, and everybody thinks of things differently, so it might come up with different ones. Like if I take a roofing contractor, for example, some person might type in roofer near me. Somebody might type in roofing company. Somebody might type in cracked shingle, like whatever the problem is. Like everybody thinks about it differently. And there's tools out there that you can use, some of them for free, some are paid. Like Google Keyword Planner is a free one, for example. And it will tell you what people are searching for in your market. And then you can optimize your website based on those terms to pull in the traffic of people who are searching for that.
Beautiful. And so do you have courses for that or?
Yeah, it's something I kind of fell into. I was doing this myself, and then I used to have an agency, and I got rid of it to do this because this was passive and the agency was not, because I was doing it for other people and not for me. And a
Okay.
lot of those clients just asked me, like, hey, can you teach me how to do this too? And I was like, okay. So I kind of fell into coaching backwards,
Mhm.
and I just mapped out my full process. So I've got a whole course community with a lot of people doing this in 9 countries now. I also do live calls with people to help them do this.
That's pretty sexy to have passive income, isn't it?
It's pretty cool. The
Yeah.
coaching's definitely not passive, but that's fulfilling. So I like doing that.
Well, coaching is, I mean, to me, you can't lead if you don't know how to coach. And so you're in the great position in that you can spread your message to people that really, really need this kind of learning about passive income, which is so attractive, especially now. So, a lot of things change all the time, right? Shift happens like you and how you had to shift things. So how do you embrace change? Because change can be scary, right? There's John Maxwell says change is inevitable, growth is optional.
It's
So
true.
so tell me a little bit about what you do. Do you prepare for the day? Are there some things that you can teach us about how to embrace some changes and some just shifts in mindset.
I've heard so many people talk about just change and how you deal with this. And I think that although it sounds simple, I think the easiest thing for me is just to accept that I have no control over it and it will come. And then just whatever happens, I'm going to figure out what the positive is.
Oh,
Just take a breath and see how can I use this to benefit me? Because there's always like a positive and a negative to anything that can happen. So I
mm,
try to look for what that positive one can be and see if there's a way to do it. And maybe, sometimes I don't always see it. So I'll ask somebody I trust about it and see if they can find the positive in whatever it is.
yeah.
And I think that's been really helpful in just keeping me grounded and sane as things change constantly.
Isn't that something? So, Luke, I love that. Ever since like at the beginning of this year, the question that you have is, how can I use this to benefit me? I love that question for self-reflection, for self-growth. I have this question, what's my next best move? Like when I
Okay.
think of a plan, right, that doesn't go my way and things and shit happens, I can get depressed or maybe sad just for a few minutes. But I've designed it in my own heart and mind, and that I'm asking myself now, what's my next best move? And it turns out that oftentimes my next best move, because this is blocked, is actually better than the original plan, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
breath, right? If we take a breath, and if we do, those two questions, how can I use this to benefit me? And then what is my next best move? I love that. I think we have
I
some.
like that. You give yourself a minute to just let it sink in. Okay, I'm frustrated, whatever. And then that's not helpful. So let's just accept it. Let's move on, figure out what the next best thing is. I like that a lot.
Yeah, yeah. It does take practice, doesn't it? Because
It does.
we can get disappointed.
It
All
does.
right. So, Luke, as a lifelong learner, what are you learning right now?
Real estate investing
Oh,
is the thing I'm learning now.
okay.
I find that every time I level up to whatever the next thing is, there's always something more. And originally it was trying to find money and time. Now that I have that, what do I do with the excess that that's created? And real estate investing has always seemed very cool to me. So that's what I've been spending time on, just going seeking coaching in that. I was just down in Orlando hanging out with Grant Cardone and some other people doing real estate investing stuff and learning. And that's the latest.
And it seems like a natural progression, right? You're in the digital real estate space, which you
Yeah,
created, which is wonderful. Yeah, so thank you. Now, let's get back to leadership. Now, when you think of leadership today, Luke, what most concerns you and what are you most hopeful about?
I think you have to know individually what you want
Mm,
and then choose who to follow because social media and websites and just all these things, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all these sources we have to get our word out there has given pretty much everybody a voice. And it can be hard to figure out who to follow. So if you have an idea of what you personally want and where you want to go, you can identify somebody who already has that and look to that person for some help. And I think that's probably the best way to do it. Seek out directly what you want instead of just opening your mind up to every possible thing.
mm. So let me ask you a question. What if you don't know what you want? Is it okay to open your mind up to all these possible things until you do?
I mean, I know that's it's hard because sometimes it takes some time to kind of figure it out. So keep an open mind, but just try really hard to figure that out because once you kind of have that, it gives you some direction. Otherwise, you're just kind of sailing around aimlessly.
Right. And it could change. And so things shift, right? What you want may change. And I want to say that one of the anchoring questions here would be, who are you? Right? Because that's a question that we should ask a lot more, especially in leadership, because oftentimes we don't have the answer to that. What it does take is a lot of reflection. So I love the question, what do you want? And then choose someone to follow. But a question before that, that to me is super important is, who are you? Like getting to know who you are.
That's a tough one. Maybe that's why I skipped that one.
That's always a tough one. And when I ask it, when I'm at trainings and I ask that question, it's like no one looks up. Everybody's like, all right, who has an answer? No one looks up
Yeah.
because it's very seldom asked, but it's one of the most important questions. And it doesn't matter whether you're in leadership or not. Who are you and what do you want? And then figuring out who you need to follow. So I love this. All right.
Identify the end and then backtrack to find a way to get there.
There you go. Okay. So what are you most hopeful about when you think of leadership today?
Specific to me, I'm really trying to build community. I think that's the thing that would have helped a younger me and would help the most people to allow me to kind of do this. I'm on a mission here trying to help 1,000 people escape their corporate chains. And you need people that can instill some belief. And
Mm,
I don't think it can always come from me, which means it has to be from the other people in the community, other clients who are crushing it, other people sharing what happened to them so that the people who don't have that kind of self belief or haven't had any success yet can see that and say, oh, well, if they can do it, maybe I can do it too. Although I'm on a podcast talking right now, I'm not the super outgoing type. This is outside of my comfort zone. I do it because I know the purpose, I know what it's going to help do.
mhm.
But I can't always be that person, right? So I have to help develop that within the community. So I'd love help with that.
Yeah, so it goes back to the very beginning, your why you're doing what you do, right? One was to escape that. I mean, the initial shock of what? I'm doing this and you're still not retired. That's shocking, right? But what I love about what you're doing, Luke, is that in your heart, and it's coming through here, you're concerned about other people. And I value that tremendously. You're not just doing this for you, you're doing this as a vehicle for other people who maybe have felt the same things you have felt, that there's a solution there. You don't have to be stuck, in other words.
Yeah, there was not really any support, and you would think family and all that stuff would be super helpful, but everybody was like, "No, stay with your job." It was all very, very negative, which was not what I would have expected. So I can only imagine other people are experiencing a similar thing, and I don't know if they're going to accept that or if they'll just kind of push it out and keep going. And I
Right.
would hope that they would keep going because
But
the grass is greener.
there is greener grass, damn it. Okay. All right. So I do have a question from a former guest. Are you ready?
Oh boy. Okay. Hit me.
Buckle up. This one is wonderful. Aisha Armstrong wants to know, what have you read recently that has changed how you act?
Oh geez. I don't know who it's by. Five love languages.
Oh, that's a great one.
This is completely outside of business. This was a recommendation from my mother, actually, just to understand how people give and accept love. And
Mm,
I've never really thought about this before, just never crossed my mind in a million years. You just see some people just work perfectly together, others butt heads, and you wonder why. But reading this, it just makes a lot of sense. And it helps not only with personal, but also with business, just helping other people feel valued and expressing gratitude in a way that they can receive it and so forth. I think it's actually been tremendous.
I'm excited that you brought that up because I speak of the four-letter word that dare not speak its name. And love is one of the things that leaders, great leaders, use to connect with people. Now, of course, there are different types of love. I'm not talking about, the romantic love. I'm talking about love for people, like, valuing people, listening, taking care of them. So I appreciate that you brought that up. And it's something that we need to talk a little bit more about, especially in leadership, how we love those we lead, because that's important. So, what is your love language?
I think I'm a combination of some of these. Quality time is definitely the primary. Spending time doing things with the people you care about. But that's the biggest one.
All right, I love it. Okay, so as a listener of this podcast, Luke, what's a question that you would like a future leadership guest to respond to? Like, what are you curious about?
The community. What have you done to build a community? That's the biggest thing I see for kind of me in 2024, and I would love to know what you've done to do that.
That's a great question. I've several of the leaders I've interviewed have asked that question. What are some obstacles that you're coming across in building communities?
How do you build that type of community when you're not that outspoken person, when you're not the super vocal one, when you're the introvert?
Immediately I'm thinking of, well, you get an extrovert on your team,
That would be one.
whatever it takes. All right. So I love it. And certainly we'll pose this to other leaders. Now, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
There is one thing. When I was thinking about what I originally wanted, trying to get out of a job, I thought it was a dollar amount. I thought if I had some specific dollar amount, that would free up everything. Then I have all the time in the world, I can do what I want. But it didn't actually work like that because in trying multiple businesses, I got to one of them, eBay. We were doing $38,000 a month. And I was like, that's way more than my salary used to be at GE, 46 grand a year.
Right.
But even at that, I had no time. And then
Mm,
I realized time was what was more important to me. And I would sacrifice tons of money to get more of that. So I would think about what you actually want and how to get there. It kind of ties in with the other stuff we've talked about. But if you can figure it out, it makes everything a lot easier in terms of figuring out what you can do, types of business models that work for you, and so forth. They just make life way easier.
yeah, so it's interesting. And the older I get, the more I realize time is the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely, hands down. All right, so Luke, I love what you're sharing here. Now, where's the best place we can connect with you?
The best place to connect with me is websiterentalcoaching.com.
Luke, I value your time and thank you so much for adding value to me and to our listeners. It's been a great conversation.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.